Welcome to my repair kit. I'm Eric Jacobson, and in this video, we'll be performing a repair to this ceramic angel with shattered wings. Watch how these pieces fit together so perfectly you can't even see the crack. Every piece will need to be glued in this fashion as you progress through your repair. I'm using a 2-part 5-minute epoxy, which can be found at your local hardware store. There are 2 primary rules when gluing pieces together. The first may seem counterintuitive, but you want to use the least amount of glue possible. The second is only apply glue to surfaces you intend to stick together. Look how tight this joint is. It's barely visible. When items are shattered into a lot of pieces, it could be like a puzzle trying to figure out which parts to glue in what order. Remember the first rule? Use the least amount of glue possible. That's why I'm dabbing only the most minimal amount onto the surface. Any excess glue could act as a barrier, causing the crack not to align properly. If the glue is still wet, you can clean the surface with a rag and denatured alcohol, but if it has cured, you need to use a razor blade. And we just continue the process of gluing the pieces together. In reality, you may have to hold each piece that you glue 10 or 15 minutes until the glue cures hard enough to be permanent. Again, pay attention to how tight these pieces align. You cannot see any separation or visible cracks. As you're assembling, you may find pieces that you know where they fit, but they're difficult to hold in place, so you might not be able to glue those right away. Now we've found a better opportunity to assist us in gluing that difficult piece. I would like to reiterate step number 2. Only apply glue to pieces you intend to stick together. Any excess glue on other surfaces will just impede the ability for the parts to align perfectly as you assemble. It is possible to glue more than one piece at a time. You may get to a point where a piece doesn't fit properly. It is possible to use a grinder to grind down the edge slightly to make it fit better. And we continue gluing the pieces together. If any of the pieces that you glue are not glued together properly, it will have a chain reaction, causing all your pieces to eventually misalign. You may notice there are some small holes and pieces missing. Most of these pieces would be too small to glue back. Carefully use a razor blade to trim off the excess glue, and it's time for us to do our first filling. The initial filling, you can just put it on heavy. You're going to cut off all the excess. For the second time you fill, you're going to use a lighter coating so that it will be easier to sand. I start off by using 220 grit sandpaper. Ceramic is very durable, so you can sand it a lot. I'm also doing all this prep work, like filling and sanding, while the wing is detached, because when attached, it would put a lot of pressure on that joint. Even though I didn't show the other half of the wing being glued on, it was all done at that moment. And the same process. Fill all the cracks with filler and trim off the excess. Now I use 400 grit sandpaper to sand the entire wing, smooth out any imperfections, and prep the wing for paint. You may notice some blue on the feathers. I'm going to show you how to replicate that soon. To initially begin with coloring the wings, I will use a white lacquer spray can. This is also available at your local hardware store. To expedite the dry time, I may use a heat gun. After a few coats of paint, you should be able to see if there's any defects in your prep work, and I use a 600 grit sandpaper to further smooth out any areas. And give it a few more coats of white paint. Now it's time to recreate the blue feathers. The liquid that you just saw me pour is called lacquer, and the pigments are just blue and white. You may be wondering why I'm putting the color on so heavy and dark. Well, I'm going to show you a cool technique. Because white is the most translucent color, applying the white over the blue will turn it into a nice soft hue. If you're interested in these pigments or over 50 additional different colors, you can find them at my website, myrepairkit.com. Finish off blending the wings and remove the tape. And one of the final steps is to glue his arm back on. The break was recessed into the sleeve, so there's really no filling that needed to occur. I'd like to give a special thank you to Dora for giving me the opportunity to repair this angel. For a more in-depth description of repairs to similar projects and furniture repair, check out my book, My Repair Kit, Repair Furniture Like a Professional, a masterclass by Eric Jacobson. Available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other retailers. Thank you for watching.